Majesty, it is certain that something untoward is in the air. Whether it be the day of judgment or not is not for me to say. No man shall know the day or hour. Today, on the Comic Book Report, we'll be reviewing Marvel 1602. Stick around and check it out. Greetings all, my name is Dominic, and as always you are watching the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. Today we'll be taking a look at Neil Gaiman's Marvel 1602. But before we jump in, here's some quick facts about today's collection. Marvel 1602 was written by Neil Gaiman and penciled by Andy Kubert. The trade paperback I'll be reviewing today collects 1602, issues 1 through 8, which were initially published in 2003. And finally, this trade comes in at roughly 216 pages. Before we take a look at the collection itself, I just want to issue a brief spoiler warning. Throughout this video, I will be flipping through the collection in its entirety, as well as commenting on some of the major plot points. You've been warned. And here is the collection itself, Marvel 1602. Get a look at that front cover, as well as the back here. I really enjoy these illustrations. They look like old-timey paintings, and immediately from looking at the collection itself, it already sets the tone. Alright, let's go ahead and open this guy up. And as I begin to take us into this first issue, I'd love to just provide a little bit of context as to how I found this collection. The year was 2010 or 11. I had just reached a phase in my reading where I had gone through a lot of those old Marvel Essential volumes to set a foundation for a lot of the Marvel heroes and their origins. Looking back, it was just such a great primer to get well versed in the Marvel universe. And after reading a lot of these early stories, I immediately wanted to branch out and read some more modern classics. Enter Marvel 1602. I just found it online. It got a lot of buzz as a modern classic. I was passingly familiar with some of Gaiman's work, and I'll admit I was intrigued by what Marvel 1602 seemed to offer. I bought this collection, and the rest was really history. What Marvel 1602 offers is a look at what the Marvel Universe would have been like if it had occurred 400 years ago. Within these pages, you have familiar characters, familiar faces, familiar supernatural abilities, juxtaposed with the Spanish Inquisition and the discovery of the so-called New World. If you're anything like me, it doesn't take very long for Andy Kubert's amazing pencils to take you far away into a world you never knew, as the very art itself has a paint-like quality that lends a kind of soft dreaminess to the whole work itself. This is matched only by the sharp prose of Neil Gaiman, which honors 17th century language without becoming obnoxious or tedious. Within these pages, we're treated to a fantastical adventure in settings that feel earnestly lived in. And as I followed the twists and turns of the plot, I was delighted to see some familiar characters shine with new brilliance. The main plot follows 17th century versions of Captain America, Nick Fury, Doctor Strange, Peter Parker, Daredevil, and some of the X-Men, to name a few. As you progress further through the story, you find more and more classic Marvel characters pop up in very surprising ways. There were a handful of moments to me while reading this collection where I made a game to guess how they would introduce the next big Marvel character, albeit in 17th century clothes. Reading this first in 2011 and reading it now in 2021, I can say that not only does this classic work hold up, there was actually even more Marvel Easter eggs than I could have guessed. And the more I've learned about the Marvel Universe in the past decade, the more I was treated to within the pages of this collection. And while it's hard to find faults in this collection, I will say, I felt like the pacing was a bit slow. This collection was 8 issues, and I felt each one. I wonder if they could have achieved it in 6. I have to recognize as well that I don't believe Marvel 1602 is for everyone. While it is perfectly serviceable as a standalone graphic novel, it does really reward those who have a functional knowledge of the Marvel universe. And I sincerely wonder how accessible something like this is to one who is still dipping their toes into the Marvel world. And as we reach the end of this collection, I find myself thinking that Neil Gaiman has done it again. This time with his sharp lyrical prose matched with the talents of Andy Kubert. Marvel really has churned out something special with this collection, and I for one think it's time to give a grade. With its painted art style, strong plotting, and faithful characterizations, Neil Gaiman and Andy Kubert made something more than a period piece with Marvel 1602. They made a love letter to the entire Marvel universe. And while it might be accessible to new readers, it really does reward loyal fans, even if at times I feel the collection can drag on a bit. For these reasons, the Comic Book Report gives Marvel 1602 a B. I have no doubt this work will be remembered as a modern-day classic, but I wonder if the packaging will be alienating to some. And if the journey to the end of this collection seems long to some, I can only encourage you to finish it out. It is a wonderful story, handled with care. And that's going to do it today for the Comic Book Report. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing or watching some of our other videos. Until next time, have a good one.